is risen! He is risen! He is risen! He is risen! He is risen!
Hi, my name's Katie and I'm one of the pastors here at the table, and we just wanted to wish you a happy Easter to you and your family. And we would love for you to share this video with your friends and family members. So go ahead and just hit the share button and then copy the link and send it on to whoever you would like. We would love for you to do that. And we wanted to take a second to just thank all the first responders, all the doctors and nurses, and everyone that is out serving. We are at the table, we are so incredibly thankful for you, and we just wanted to say thank you for all that you're doing. Today we are starting our new series, Indignant, and Brad will be talking to us about negative self-talk and what the resurrection has to say about negative self-talk.
I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my tomb till I met you. I was breathing but not alive. And all my failures I tried to hide. It was my tomb till I met you. When you called my name, and I ran out of the grave, out of the darkness to your glorious day. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness to your glorious day. Now your mercy has saved my soul. Now your freedom is all that I know. The old name, Jesus, when I met you. When you called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness to your glorious day. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness to your glorious day. I needed rescue, my sin was heavy, but chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter, I was an orphan. Now you call me the citizen of heaven. Where I was broken, you were my healing. Now your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future, my eyes are open, 'cause when you call my name, I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness to your glorious day. You call my name,
Well, good morning, Table Tribe. It is Easter Sunday, and I just have to say, He is risen. That's right. I feel like this deserves a major celebration. What do you think? Let's do it. Sometimes I don't always have the brightest ideas, but hey, we're so glad that you have joined us this morning on Easter Sunday for the beginning of our new series called Indignant. And just want you to take a moment to, wow, I'm out of breath. Whew. All that running around is kind of crazy. But anyway, I want you to just take a moment to share this message with your friends. Share it on Facebook, Instagram, wherever you'd like to share it. Just share it with your friends today. And you guys have been awesome at this, and it's fun to see people from all over tuning in to our messages on Sunday. But this morning, we begin our new series called Indignant. And I wonder, what makes you angry? Is it the Chicago traffic that makes you angry? Is it those annoying people on social media who make all those stupid social media posts? I wonder if it's your Instacart shopper who accidentally brings out the wrong products, or you order something specific and they got it wrong. Maybe it's when somebody's rude to the barista. I don't know. What makes you angry? I don't know. A lot of times I think things that make us angry really have no eternal significance. But it's interesting because when we often think of Jesus, we often think of him as this loving, kind, gracious person. And as we said last week, he is. But sometimes the way that he expresses love, the way that he expresses grace, is by being indignant about unfair situations. And so over the next 4 weeks, we're going to be talking about this idea of indignant, where we watch where Jesus is indignant, we watch where other people are indignant, and we hope that in some sense it will shape the things that we should be indignant about as Jesus addresses the unfairness of humanity. One of the things I look forward to most in life, in fact, it's one of my favorite things in life, is going out on a date with Janelle. In fact, I look forward to date night so much, and we have found this little Italian restaurant. We love Italian, and we've been looking for a good place to go to. And we found this little Italian restaurant. I mean, it's fairly romantic, quite small. I think it is family owned. It's a local business. In fact, the blackened chicken tortellini is to die for. Literally, I think if you ate too much of it, you probably would die. But it's one of the most fantastic dishes I've ever had. But anyway, we love to go on these dates, and we love to sit down. And a lot of times, our conversations, as we just have a chance to get away, our conversations can be honest. Sometimes they're emotional. Sometimes we're reflecting about our relationship and where we are personally, and sometimes I get a bit sentimental. And I can remember one night after a date, we decided to do what romantic couples do after eating, which is go to the grocery store. I mean, when you're married and you have kids, one of the most romantic things you can do is go to the grocery store. I know some of you in your 20s, you're not married, you don't have kids, you're like, what is wrong with these people? But trust me, one day you will learn to find Aldi absolutely romantic. But anyway, Janelle and I we were at the store and we were walking around getting a few things, maybe just getting dessert for that night. And something came over me in that moment. I don't know what it was. I was kind of going through a funk, but I just became aware of how grateful I was and how thankful I was to be married to Janelle. I mean, I am a lucky, lucky guy. And I feel like I'm so blessed to be married to her. But there was this awareness of like, you don't deserve her. You don't deserve the family you have. In fact, I can remember just kind of walking around with this self-talk in my mind, and I just kept saying, you're such a loser. What a waste. And that kept going on over and over and over again. And I'm glad I'm kind of out of that funk, but it's just kind of where I was, that self-talk of, man, you're such a waste. And so today I want to tell you an Easter story because it addresses this very thing. In fact, the story that we're going to be looking at today is written by a guy named Matthew, who by all accounts was somebody who was labeled as a waste. In fact, I like to describe Matthew as this guy who he is described as a Benedict money laundering tax fraud who steals from his very neighbors, his own countrymen, his own country folks. I mean, this guy steals from them and then gives it to the country that is their enemy. And so you can just imagine the self-talk that takes place in his brain every day. Doesn't matter that he's rich, doesn't matter that he has money, doesn't matter that he doesn't go without. The self-talk constantly, because he hears it over and over and over again, has to be, man, I am worthless. I am such a waste. And I think because of his experience in life, he then puts this story within the Easter account. In fact, his entire account of Easter and everything that happens, this story is in it. And I know you're going to be saying, how is this an Easter story? But it's so good, I can't wait to share it with you. But before we do, I want you to answer this question this morning with me. In fact, you know how this works. One of the things we love to do at the table is we love to talk during the talk. We'd love for you to text somebody. We'd love for you to take notes about it if you're an introvert. Or we would just love for you to talk with your family about it this morning. But here's the question that I want you to wrestle with, and it's this. What are the areas of your life that often make you feel like you are worthless and a waste? That's right. What are the areas of your life that often make you feel like you are worthless and a waste?
Well, I searched the world, but it couldn't feel me. A man's empty praise, treasures that fade, will never be enough. That you came along, put me back together. Now
this morning I'm excited to share this story with you because it addresses the very thing that you and I struggle with. I know I can hear you saying already, Brad, why were you so hard on yourself? Why are you so hard on yourself? And I would ask you the same question. Why are you so hard on yourself? In fact, I bet if I could just get into your brain, into your mind for a minute, the self-talk that takes place and some of the things that you just discussed, you begin to think about moments and aspects of your life and emotions that you struggle to control, or personality traits that you have, or maybe it was mistakes that you've made. All of these things contribute to the self-talk that takes place that essentially tells us, hey, we're a waste. We are worthless. And so this story this morning is so amazing. And I want you just to dive in with me. And here we are. We're in Matthew chapter 26. And this again is Matthew's account. And this is a guy who knows what it's like to feel like such a waste. And here's what he says. He says, while Jesus was in Bethany in the home of Simon the leper, a woman came to him with an alabaster jar, a very expensive perfume, which she began to pour on Jesus' head as he was reclining at the table. When the disciples saw this, there it is, they were indignant. They were angry. They were upset. This is unfair. They were indignant. Listen to what they say. They say, why this waste? This perfume could have been sold at a high price and the money given to the poor. Janelle and I often meet with couples before they get married, and we give them about 8 hours worth of pre-marriage counseling, if not more. And one of the things we love to do is give them tools for their marriage that allow them to be the best couple that they can be. And one of the things we often talk about is conflict resolution. And what we often tell couples is this, is that the thing is not the main thing. That the thing you think you're fighting about is not the main thing that you're fighting about. It's usually about a deeper issue. And I think this morning, the disciples are indignant, but they're not indignant about a bottle of perfume. I think it's a deeper issue. And you're saying, Brad, come on. It's right there in the text. I understand this is the BLT, the Brad's Living Translation. So just hang with me. I think it's good. Because what Jesus says next points us to the deeper issue. In fact, Matthew writes it here, and here's what he says. He says, aware of this, Jesus being aware of this, says to them, why are you bothering this woman? I love that. He's like, yeah, I know about the bottle of perfume, but why are you bothering this woman? See, it's not about the what. It's not about the bottle of perfume. I mean, think about this with me. This was likely this lady's livelihood. This was all that she owned. It was what she was worth. In other words, this bottle was a reflection of her life. And this is why I say it's not about the what. It's not about the bottle. It's about the why. Jesus isn't worried about the bottle of perfume. He's worried about the why. Why are you bothering this woman? Why this woman? And the disciples are asking the same question. Yeah, Jesus, why this woman? In fact, you can almost hear just the overtones of being condescending. I love it. It's like, why this waste? Why this woman? Why this waste? And it's interesting that this phrase that is used by Matthew when he writes this story, why this waste? The word literally means destruction or eternal destruction, and it's used in this future tense. And so if you kind of put these two ideas together, when they point to the woman and when they say, why this waste, they're essentially saying, why this woman who has no bright future? Why choose the woman that has a destructive future ahead of her? In fact, we know from other accounts that this woman was a disreputable character. She's described as a sinner in some accounts. We know that her future probably isn't bright. We know that she doesn't have a lot ahead of her. And so the disciples are looking at this woman and they're beginning to ask this question over and over and over again. Why are you choosing her? Why this waste? Why the woman whose future is destructive? And so I want to go back to you real quick. What about you this morning? I want to go back to the question we asked you earlier on, which is, what are the areas of your life where you feel like you aren't worth it? Where you feel worthless? Or you feel like, man, I'm just a waste? I get it. Like, some of us maybe have had failed relationships. Maybe you just broke up with somebody. Maybe your marriage is on the brink of divorce, and you just have this sense inside of you that says, I have nothing to add to this future. I have nothing to add to this relationship. I don't know what I can possibly do to make it better. And you feel worthless. Again, I know some of us have been laid off. Some of us have been fired from a job. Some of us have been let go during COVID-19. And can we just be honest for a minute? It doesn't matter what excuse your boss tells you. It doesn't matter what reason, even if it is because of COVID and they no longer have income. When somebody lets you go from a job, essentially what they're telling you is, you're not worth it. And whenever we're fired, or we're let go, man, we just feel like, yeah, we're the waste. We're just getting rid of the waste, the people that can't contribute well. Maybe during this season, you're struggling with patience. Patience with your parents, patience with your kids, patience with your spouse, patience with anybody that you're living with in this moment. And no matter how hard you try, it always feels like you just can't get it right. Or you can't add, again, any value to the relationship, and so you feel worthless. Maybe you have been a business leader. Maybe you've started your own business. Maybe you have failed multiple times in endeavors that you started, something that was brand new and exciting, and all of a sudden it fails. And you feel like, man, what a waste. I think this is how we feel in our faith relationship with Jesus. A lot of times it feels like a one-way street, doesn't it? Like, constantly talking to God, constantly pouring into this relationship that we're supposed to have, and we never actually hear anything from God. And you begin to wonder, does God think I'm worth it? Does God think I'm a waste? I just wonder if that's how you feel this morning. And it's funny because when the disciples are indignant about why this woman, something happens that absolutely changes our viewpoint and their viewpoint. In fact, I want you to hear what Jesus says, and it's so crazy. I love it. He says, aware of this, Jesus said to them, why are you bothering this woman? And then check this out. She has done a beautiful thing to me. I love that. She has done a beautiful thing. I know it's written all over the story, but sometimes we just can't see the obvious. And that is this. What others view as a waste, God values as a beautiful thing. What others view as a waste, God values as a beautiful thing. When we begin to hear the disciples' words and we look at the indignancy of the situation of this woman standing at Jesus' feet or standing around him and anointing him, and they're asking, why her? Why would you choose her? They couldn't see her future. Again, she comes from a past with a terrible reputation. Why would you choose her, Jesus? And I love it because while they think she's a waste, Jesus thinks that she has something amazing to offer. He sees her as a beautiful thing, and the thing that she's done is a beautiful thing. In fact, here's what he says. Truly, I tell you, wherever this gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her. I know I can already hear you saying, so where's the Easter story? Like, aren't we supposed to be talking about the resurrection of Jesus? Aren't we supposed to be like I thought this was supposed to be where we celebrate Jesus coming out of the tomb. Yeah, you're right. But like I said, this is an Easter story. And here's how I know that. Because when Jesus says, wherever the gospel is preached, you know this. Gospel is good news. What's the good news? That Jesus has resurrected from the dead. I mean, doesn't matter if you have a cross without the resurrection. Without the resurrection, the cross is meaningless. And so he says, whenever the good news is preached, in other words, whenever we hear about the resurrection, this woman's story will go down in history. And so, before we get to her story, I just want to ask you one more question this morning. And that is this. What areas of your life do others deem a waste, but God has the potential to redeem as a beautiful thing? What are the areas of your life that others deem a waste, but God has the potential to redeem as a beautiful thing? So let's put this all together this morning. You're asking me again, what does this story of this woman pouring expensive perfume on Jesus' head have to do with the resurrection? Well, it's interesting when you go to John's account. Here's what he says, and here's how he writes the story about the first day of God's new world. He says, "Now Mary stood outside the tomb crying, and as she bent over to look into the tomb and saw two angels in white seated where Jesus' body had been, one at the head and the other at the foot, they asked her, 'Woman, why are you crying?' 'They have taken my Lord away,' she said, 'and I don't know where they've put him.' At this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she did not realize that it was Jesus. He asked her, 'Woman, why are you crying? And who is it that you're looking for?' Thinking that he was a gardener, she said, 'Sir, if you carried him away, tell me where you've put him and I'll go and get him.' Jesus said to her, 'Mary.' And she turned toward him and cried out in Aramaic, 'Rabboni,' which means teacher. And Jesus said, 'Do not hold on to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father. Go instead to my brothers and tell them, I'm ascending to the Father and your Father, to my God and your God.'" Now notice what John does here. He says, Mary Magdalene. I love that. Full name, in other words, full disclosure. That's right. Remember, why the waste? Why this woman? The woman with no past. Mary Magdalene went to the disciples with the news, "I have seen the Lord. I have seen the Lord." And she told them that he had said these things to her. I love the ending of this story. It's so good. I mean, here is Mary who gets to witness the resurrection of Jesus. And the first thing he does is he says, "Go back and tell my brothers, go back and tell the disciples." And I love it when she goes back. Now, this isn't a moment of bragging, right? But it's almost a moment of, I told you so. Like, you didn't understand what I was doing in the Jesus story, but check it out. That's right. Out of all the people that could have been chosen to witness the resurrection. I mean, think about this. All of the people who followed Jesus throughout the course of his ministry. That's right. Peter, you're the one who was chosen to be the rock who Jesus was going to build the church on. John, that's right, man. You were the one who got to go into these secret little rooms when Jesus was having those amazing little conversations, and nobody else got to hear them but you. I mean, out of all the people that Jesus could have chosen to see and to witness her, or to witness him on that first Sunday, Mary Magdalene, the one who everyone said, "Why this waste?" was the one who got to share the gospel, the resurrection story of Jesus with everyone. And it was almost like, watch what God can do with waste. God can make something beautiful out of it. And when I think about what she had experienced and what she had witnessed that day, I think Easter Sunday is the most indignant moment in history. I mean, think about this. God realizes that we have chosen our own path. We have chosen our own destruction, our own future, our own, you name it. We've done it. We've made the mistakes. We've screwed everything up. Like, we essentially are a waste, and God says, man, this can't be it. And so God, through his son Jesus, sends his son, who was crucified on a cross for your sin and for my sin. And then he was buried. And when everybody thought there was no hope, and when everybody thought there was no way forward, God's Spirit breathes on his dead son, who then comes back to life. And the reason why I say Easter is the most indignant moment in history is because God takes our waste through Jesus and puts it to death and says, you are a beautiful thing. That's right. What others view as waste, I value as a beautiful thing. In fact, this is what I want you to know today. As we end this Easter 2020, the first time in history where we're not together. And by the way, I am so sad. I walked into the party room today and it was empty. And I thought, man, I am just missing hanging out with everyone. But this is what I want you to know. What others view as a waste, God values as a beautiful thing. What others view as waste, God values as a beautiful thing. This is the Easter story. And I just want to say, if you are struggling with self-talk, if you are struggling with your past, if you're struggling with the mistakes, struggling with just who you are as a person, and you constantly beat yourself up and say, there's no future for me, there's no reason for me to be here, there's nothing that I can add to relationships or society or people around me, if you constantly find yourself saying, what a waste, I want you to know that Easter is for you. Jesus was indignant about the unfairness of your life. And the most unfair thing you can do is waste your life thinking that you are a waste. Because God says you are a beautiful thing. And so this morning, I want to challenge you to move forward in your faith. In fact, it is our mission at the table to guide people into a forward-moving relationship with Jesus. And here's what I would say to you. Today, move from this mindset of seeing yourself as worthless and a waste to a place where God has something beautiful to do through you. In fact, I want you to be like Mary. Wherever the gospel is preached, whenever we speak about new life and resurrection, and when we think about Jesus, your story is told. Your story goes down in history. And people look at you and say, man, look at what God can do with waste. Look at the beautiful thing he can make. And so this morning, I know it is hard and there are lots of questions you may be asking and wondering, but I would just say today is the first day of the rest of your life. And so I would just challenge you to pray this prayer with me. Today is the day that you give Jesus your life. Today is the day where you start over new. And today is the day where you have a bright future. And it's a simple prayer. And if you're in your living room, if you're at home, if you're in your pajamas, if you're sitting next to your family, I would just ask you to pray this prayer with me. And it goes like this. Jesus, I give you my life. Jesus, I give you my life. I give you all of me so you can live inside of and you can lead all of me. If you prayed that prayer today, we want you to know that God has a bright future for you and that you were meant to do something amazing in life. And because of your commitment to Him, those things, your future will change and God will use you to do something beautiful. And so we want to know about how God has changed your life. We want to know that you have made this commitment to Jesus today on Easter 2020. And so we would just say this. Number one, you got to share this with somebody. You got to share it with people. You got to let people know that you have finally decided to move forward in your faith with Jesus. But also, I want to know personally. And so if you could just send an email to prayers@thetablejoliet.org. We would love to pray for you and be praying for your faith and connect with you. And so again, just email us at prayers@thetablejoliet.org and just let us know, today on Easter 2020, I have made a decision for Jesus. In fact, if you are comfortable and you're watching this via Facebook Live, you can go ahead and just drop it in the comment section and say, today is the day that I've given my life to Jesus. And we are celebrating with you. We are so excited that you have made this decision. Table Tribe, we'll see you next week for the second part of this series, week 2, Indignant. I would love for you to end your time today with us talking about this question. How is your life different because of Easter? Maybe a better question is, how is your life different because of the resurrection?